I don't know if that's, will be enough for them, but at any rate, that's what CPA did.
No editorializing.
Yep, okay, I agree. We also had a meeting where people came forward and gave us recommendations on what we should be looking toward as CPA for the town. And that was an interesting, we had a lot of ideas brought forward. It was interesting. We were on track, but it's always good to get tighter guidance. Trails Committee?
Trails Committee is meeting tonight. If they get a quorum, they were having difficulty getting that. So we don't know whether they're gonna meet tonight or not. Saturday, of course, being the third Saturday of the month, they are going to have a Trails Day, starting at 8 o'clock, running until noon time. You can check the websites to see the exact location and the type of work that's being done. But wear boots. If you don't have gloves, we'll provide the gloves. And if you want your own water, bring it. If you don't want your own water, we will have water available on site.
All right, that's open space. We don't have any advisor for that, and Lakes Committee, same. So, do you want to go into 15 minutes of letter permits and stuff?
Sure.
You don't have any walk-ins, right?
No, we just thought that someone from Hamilton Rod and Gun Club would try to make it early so we could do their letter permit first, but we can do that anyways if they're here or
When
not.
they're
since
here,
we don't.
yeah. Well,
Good.
save it until,
Okay.
let's see, if, do the other stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's one change on our letter permits for 320 Brookfield Road. It's the shed at the junior high. They actually found a better location further away, right by the parking lot. I talked to them today, so they didn't need to be on our agenda. They don't need to file with us for that. So that one's off.
Okay, so we can check that one off?
Yep, 320 Brookfield Road. We have 310 The Trail. This one is a small porch over an existing permitted deck on Big Alum. Our porch is approximately, had everything in order, 75 to 80 feet away. It's a minor project under the Wetlands Protection Act. There's no soil disturbance proposed. The gutter will be connected to the existing downspout. Don't anticipate any concerns with this project or any conditions. I would just put in the letter the project as proposed, what they said they would do, the size of it, the gutter being connected to the downspout, et cetera, no soil disturbance. I don't anticipate any concerns on that, so.
Okay. Any comments from anybody? All in favor of approving it? Next.
Okay, we have 41 River Road. This is an above-ground pool proposed within an existing single-family yard. If you want to look at these, I didn't scan it and bring it up on there for the small ones here. So it's a 28 by 16 oval pool. All work is proposed within an existing lawn, which is also fenced in. Footprint of the pool is approximately 100 feet away from the wetland. I went out there and helped them kind of measure everything. The edge of the lawn is approximately 75 feet away. The town, we actually own the parcel in the back, is a big vernal pool back here. So that's our property, in care and custody of Conservation Commission. There's some minor, very minor leveling of the lawn that's required for the footprint of the pool. They are gonna put down, they're gonna have a small bobcat to do that, all excavated materials. He has a lot of divots in his lawn area. He plans on kind of filling those in and seeding with lawn on those. I don't anticipate really any concerns. Sounds like a very small project. I would just recommend, since they will be out there moving the earth around, maybe to do a straw wattle in the back,
Okay.
so, by the edge of the lawn.
And how far away from the river is it?
It's not close at all to the river. The river is off of, it's way back there. So there's a wetland that's,
Oh, okay.
like a vernal pool back there, and it's about, the edge of the lawn to the wetland is about 65, 75 feet away, and then the actual footprint of the pool is further back from that.
Any questions, anybody? Comments? All in favor, approving?
Good catch.
So we have the tree removal permit application for 96 Paradise Lane. This is that large oak tree, thank you, that we saw on our site visit. And the actual tree is probably about 90 feet away.
Yeah.
Right, and we were talking to the tree warden today, and he's saying the white oaks with the gypsy moth and with the drought conditions, a lot of them have died from that over the past couple years. So this is probably affected by the same, so.
Is that the one where previously a tree was to have been planted on the property?
Yep.
Yep.
So in 2013, you guys reviewed and approved the removal of a maple right by the shore, and then another oak in the back. Another tree had fallen on the cottage, and you did issue a letter permit and asked that another tree be planted in a convenient location close to the shore.
Did they send you a picture of where that tree was planted?
The tree was not planted. So it says, as part of this approval, the Conservation Commission requests that you replace the shoreline tree. So there was no tree that was planted. The other tree, I did look it up, we did have orders of conditions for the site next door, and all that landscaping was part of that. So I did phone the property owner who lives across the street, and she just didn't think there was a good spot for the tree down there with the size, and she didn't, I don't think she realized too that she was required to plant that tree, so.
Didn't we require that he put in a tree to replace the tree that he cut down? The maple tree?
She just read that. It
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
it was in the letter.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
it was in the letter as we request, so.
Right.
Oh, it was not an order, it was just a request?
Yeah, but if you're gonna not pay attention to the request of the commission, you should at least discuss it with the commission.
Right, and I was actually thinking about that too, is maybe we need to have something as part of the approval process, like if you do not agree with this condition or you have concerns, please notify us before doing the work. Something that verifies that they received this, and, since it is a letter permit versus like orders of conditions where they would have to record.
Otherwise, we're
orders.
really a toothless tiger.
Yep.
Any comment? I'd like to require 2 replacement trees for this oak as a part of, one down
for
on the water.
And require them to plant the tree that was originally requested.
Okay,
In addition, that was
That's
the
not
other
enough.
okay,
That is not enough in my estimation.
Well, the problem is I'm not sure. I mean, we could also require, high bush blueberries or something like that in addition to that, to do the 2-to-1, but the problem is I'm not sure where they're gonna
Right.
be planted.
And if they have a problem with planting the tree down by the water, as was previously suggested, they need to converse with the conservation agent.
Yeah.
But I definitely don't think 1-for-1 on taking down that humongously large oak tree is sufficient. I think that we need to have some berry bearing bushes put up in addition to a 1-for-1 replacement for that tree.
Right, well, Ed proposed 2-to-1 for the tree that they're requesting now, and I said in addition to the one that they were originally supposed
Okay.
to plant. So they would be putting in three trees, 3 full-size trees.
I think we also ought to define the size of the tree that is to be replaced for that big white oak. Because planting a tree that's a foot tall, you go out in the woods and pull up an oak and plant it.
Right.
That's not what we have in mind.
What would you like for size, David? Because we don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
1.5, 2 inch DBH.
Okay. 3 1.5 to 2 inch. Okay?
Okay, yep,
And the one of them has to be on the water.
Yes,
And they need to be, like red oaks or maples or something that, like Tommy recommended, full-size trees that can withstand,
yeah, a significant tree.
yeah, okay? Any further discussion on this? All in favor?
What about the additional shrubs that you were saying?
Well, if we're gonna ask for 2-to-1 on the tree, maybe we can give them the option of one replacement tree for the white oak and 5 berry-bearing bushes. Because maybe they would be more amenable to putting in bushes on that property where you have the slope going down to the water. They could even use it as a line of demarcation between the two properties.
That actually would probably look better.
It
so we
might.
can give them the option.
Yep.
That's not a determination
I
we
know
can
that,
make,
but I'm
but
just saying,
I agree with you, it would, probably.
Problem I have with it is, that we've thrown some smoke in there. We now lack clarity on our request. Giving them options. And they-
Well, some people would really balk at putting a 1.5 to
Right.
2-inch DBH tree
Right, true.
up,
Yeah,
because that's gonna be costly,
yeah, not too bad.
$100 or more.
Yeah,
I don't know, personally, I like having options. I don't feel like Big Brother is coming down quite as hard on
I
me.
don't, okay, fine, I'll go along with it. So we're gonna have 2 1.5 inch DBH, and then we're gonna have
5 berry-bearing,
berry-bearing bushes,
Yep, any type,
any type.
they can choose them,
Okay,
yep.
Or 3.
and one of
or
those
3.
trees has to be down by the water.
yes.
yes.
Good correction, Paul.
All in favor? Thank you. Where to, Becky? Hamilton?
Next, yep, 24 Hamilton Road. This is the septic replacement. We had the site visit on Tuesday. I don't have the plan to put up. I didn't scan it in,
Yeah,
once I got it. This is the septic replacement that is over 100 feet away, so it's just a local bylaw. We got a limit of work on our plan, which is what I asked for. I don't know if anyone wants to see it
Okay.
again. With this one, I would just, they weren't really sure when the work was gonna be done or how, the work plan would work out with the sequencing of digging the trench or whatnot.
Yep.
So just have a condition for erosion controls during work. And then once they have a work plan, we can see what they would need for those erosion controls at that time, depending on what their scope is. If they need one down the side of the trench, or it's just, encircling, stockpiling, so.
okay. Gentlemen?
We had, I guess one comment I have is about the maintenance of the system, because because they're pumping.
Yeah.
Yep,
I realize that may be out of our, I don't know if it's out of our jurisdiction,
It's
but.
not
that-
out of our, the pump is in our jurisdiction.
Right, because it's, if it fails, it could be a problem. So I guess I would just say that whatever we can add,
we
that,
could condition for ensure, like an operation and maintenance
Plan.
plan for this system, and
Right.
someone is responsible for it,
Right.
type of thing,
Yeah.
okay,
With the agent.
yeah.
That is the most severe understatement Steve and I have ever heard.
well, and I guess also to make sure that there are sufficient controls on it to prevent,
Okay.
if it fails, to prevent the sewage from backing up.
Yep.
I guess what my disturbance is that when we went on the site visit, Stephen, you asked him about the alarm system, and he did say that they were gonna have that alarm. But there's only people there on the weekends.
Right, does it go
Yep.
to like a phone, or how does it work? 'Cause,
I don't know.
yeah, I don't know.
Well, and an alarm is great, but also having the appropriate check valves or whatever is required to keep it from backing up, so, which I'm sure, should be there, but
But the filter maintenance
filter maintenance, yeah,
is key,
right.
Yeah.
historically, from what I
You gotta
know.
talk, otherwise he's gonna jam the microphone at you.
All right,
Yep.
All in
all in
favor?
favor? Gentlemen, thank you.
Deborah, did you get that count?
Do you want me to read the statement?
Go to it, yep.
In the interest of saving time, the Sturbridge Conservation Commission will hold all public hearings tonight for work within a wetland, water body, or resource area, and/or within the 200-foot buffer zone to a wetland, water body, or resource area, in accordance with the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, and associated regulations, and the Town of Sturbridge Wetland bylaws and associated regulations. We will not be reading the newspaper ad. Prior to opening the first hearing for each project, the applicant is to submit proof of notification to abutters within 200 feet of the subject property line and proof of legal newspaper advertisement. These items are not submitted, the public hearing will not open. Additionally, prior to the start of each public hearing, we will announce the location of the project, the applicant, and the applicant's representative. If any of the visitors have not legibly signed in yet, please do. Also, if any visitors are recording this meeting, please let us know. Thank you.
All right, public hearings. We're at 6:15. We have a notice of intent, DEP number 300-1014 for 234/236 Haynes Road, Petrogas, represented by Ecotech Inc., redevelopment of an existing gas station and restaurant site, including relocation of a culverted perennial stream.
And they're not here yet, so, oh, they are? Okay. Okay. I just wanted to add, for this, Ed and Paul both weren't present at the original meeting, so we do have Mullen forms completed that they've watched the videos for that. And I also wanted to add too, for anyone in the public, that the George Vinton Road project, the solar project, we won't be doing that one tonight. That one's gonna be continued to next week, so if anyone's here for that, just so you know. Okay.
Yeah, you have no idea how much fun it is. Every Thursday night, you said, "Thank you, God."
That they don't go as long today as they did on that video.
How you doing?
Red line.
Right?
Good evening, Art Allen from Ecotech, here for the continued public hearing for the Petrogas, the gas station redevelopment project at Mashapog and Haynes, Route 15. And we basically come in tonight just to introduce some concept plans that Pat, the engineer, has been working on in terms of basically a partial daylighting of the perennial stream, moving it out of the development area, away from the fueling areas and the underground tanks and things, and then bringing it into the existing intermittent stream on the northeast side of the site, right over here on this side. So the perennial stream, we would pick it up at the existing culvert under Mashapog Road, lead it around the outside or the kind of the southeast side of the site, and then down and daylight it at the perennial stream prior to then flowing open into the Mass DOT drainage structure down here. That's the general concept. In order to do this, because of the grades, and Pat will expound on this, you know, we'd be modifying this existing stream section in here, and there'd be a small modification to in the wetland at the connection over on this side. Basically, we'd be looking at kind of a full reforestation, revegetation of the banks and buffers. We'd need to make up some grade, quite a bit of grade change in here. So we're talking about some kind of like a mountain stream step pool design for the restoration of that combined stream up gradient or upstream of the DOT structure. And Pat's also worked out some new ideas for enhanced stormwater treatment. So another basin between the wetland and the site over on this side. And then you're still talking about a basin up to the north, and then this one that's always been on the plan to the south, or to the east in the corner here. So maybe Pat could expound a little bit more.
I
Yes.
can zoom in anywhere too if you want to talk in more detail about areas, so just let me know.
All right, I think this one's good. for-
Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Pat McLaughlin, civil engineer with MHF Design. So as Art said, yeah, I think we'd want to grab a hold of the relocation at the existing structure that's just off the shoulder of Mashapog. That's down within that finger of wetland there now. That has a catch basin grate on it. If you weren't looking, you wouldn't see it.
I've never seen it.
Yeah.
Actually.
And
Yeah, I don't think I noticed that before either. Yeah.
It was
Now, you
buried.
guys don't live in town.
It,
You don't recycle. You recycled like I do. You'd see it.
So it's down in there, and what we're thinking would be to start the work there and replace that with more of a drop inlet structure that would have an open throat to receive water from that wetland without getting kind of buried over by the leaves every season. And then we'd run a new 36-inch RCP reinforced concrete pipe around the back.
All the way around?
All the way
All new?
All new, all the way around. Yeah. So and one of the figures that I had last time highlights the course of where the existing culvert cuts through the site now. It'd be difficult to point out on this, but the intent here is to get the relocation out from underneath the development area, away from all the fueling components, and also be available for maintenance down the road.
Are you encroaching on the wetland?
We
This expansion?
Yeah, we will impact the wetland in the corner here to do the work at the existing structure. Quite a bit of work within the 25-foot buffer as we travel out of there. Then as we run along the back, we come out of all the buffers, I believe, at some point. Well, the 200 foot's all the way out here. So it would all be buffer work, and then we would impact this entire section of wetland here to do the regrading that Art mentioned, and then restore that to a natural type pattern. So do you have the next one with the
Yep.
detailed grading? So this one shows the extent of the earthwork that we would be looking to move around to be able to daylight. And as we summarized at the initial meeting, discussions with DOT had asked us to disconnect from their drainage system, which meant a segment of open channel flow again, at least within the right-of-way. And as we looked at the different configurations and ultimately finding that the most appropriate option would be to come around the back of the site like we're showing, we just realized that ultimately we would have to essentially dredge this section of the intermittent stream now to be able to get this pipe to outlet at this elevation that we need it to. So I'm running a minimum slope, which is 0.5% for maybe like 760 feet or so of 36-inch culvert, and that varies in depth, but approximately 15 feet deep. Some of the other options that were discussed would be, opening up an open channel through this same area. If you look at the extent of the width of the channel slope and how that would impact the entire area back here, that just didn't seem feasible.
And DOT has already said flat out, we can't do it on the other side of the site. They're obviously the same kind of grade challenges and extent of excavation, but they don't want us, you know, they won't even entertain us doing anything like that on piping or open channel on their property.
Yeah, so, as Art mentioned also, and again, this is in the conceptual phase, but, just before we had been to the first meeting, we had done some additional test pits. So we have a test pit in this location now, which indicates, a seasonal high water table depth that would support, a recharge basin or a rain garden type feature here.
What was the type of soils that you found there?
This is all sandy material here.
Sandy gravel?
Yeah, yep. And so, so we'd be looking to do, you know, another basin here, again, disconnecting the site runoff from the stream itself. This basin that we've been showing all along actually provides recharge, and doesn't even, need the ability to use the overflow weir until maybe like the 100-year storm frequency. So I would try to size this basin to act in a similar manner. So we'd be recharging quite a bit of stormwater between the two of those, because on this end of the site, we just have the separation to do that from the water table. If you can go back to the other. Thank you.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna zoom in, do you want this?
Sure, I mean, this, just a dashed outline, but, this was the other area that we had kind of always investigated and thought about doing, additional treatment. You know, it is the site of the existing leach field for the gas station facility now. And we did one test pit kind of up on the left-hand side, and that only indicated a water table 24 inches down. So that's gonna be a different type of BMP where it's gonna be either some type of wet basin or it'll utilize an impermeable liner and provide treatment with an under drain. So the intent of this basin would be to utilize a conventional piped outlet. So just to get your commentary and to fill you in, that would require a discharge pipe at like a flared end section with you know, with stone outlet protection, somewhere down close to the wetland elevation, just to get this whole configuration to work hydraulically. By the time we have on-site pipes that discharge into you know, a forebay and a basin and then make its way out, you know, I would see a piped outlet down towards the wetland area. It would be treated water, but just to put that into scope for you guys. You know, the other option that, you know, because the stream culvert is the lowest discharge point possible, but we're trying to stay away from having a piped connection to that. So, it would kind of be a one or the other scenario there in terms of getting treated water out of this basin.
Do you want to talk about the septic?
Yeah, just briefly, so, also just prior to the last meeting, we had been out with the Board of Health looking at, test pits for septic purposes, and, you know, some of the historical reasons why this system that's out in the woods now,
Yeah, where am I? I'm going towards,
yeah, so towards the condos.
Yeah.
Yep, to the north. So we're out in the woods, there's, you know, an existing gravel access road historically out through here. It's got some down trees over it from not really being accessed in quite a long time. So this is the existing leach field, which is the concrete chambers. As we mentioned before, they were never even covered with an earthen cap. So, you know, that was a big reason why, you know, the abutters could occasionally have some odor issues there. But additionally, you know, this was designed prior to the Title V regulations, so it likely never had the required separation that we would have to have on a new system now. So that's why we're proposing this system here, which is actually created in a fill situation in order to provide the separation that we need from the bottom of the beds. just briefly, I know the Board of Health will review this, but this would be designed to have alternating beds. So there's one singular force main that comes up, and then the flow can be diverted at a structure. So every 6 months, one bed would rest and rejuvenate while the flow is sent to the alternate bed.
Is that manually operated?
No, actually, typically it would be, but they are actually now electronically actuated. So there'd be an
That's
electric.
better.
I think it's from an app on your phone.
Yeah.
So you could be alternating your septic beds from your phone. But
Will that alleviate the concerns of the abutters, because they were
yeah,
very happy with your septic?
that's right. Yep, and it's also moving it a considerable distance further away from their end of the property.
And from the wetlands.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
also true. Further from the wetlands.
That'll be until you have a ZTE phone.
So those are basically the updates and the items that we're looking to get feedback from you folks, so that we can put the hard engineering design behind it, and Art and I can come back with a comprehensive package. Unless you have anything else right now.
And we fully intend to put, all of our analysis in writing, in terms of the performance standards and alternatives. So, we've been through, we've looked at sizing, we've talked some about, like the open bottom concepts and things. I mean, just to touch on that briefly from an ecological, biological perspective, as you know, the stream crossing standards, they promote, kind of natural stream channels, natural substrate, natural stream beds. This situation is pretty unique. I mean, it's not, we're not talking about a 20 or 40 foot roadway crossing. We're talking about, 700 or 800 feet of pre-existing culvert. And when we start talking about trying to open it up, there's constraints both upstream and downstream in terms of, the existing systems we have to connect into and out of. And then to talk about opening the stream and creating a natural bottom. I mean, in reality, in all honesty, if an animal gets into this stream at the inlet side, their best chance of survival is to be washed through the system all the way to the outlet. Because if we start putting substrate or anything that would impinge that flow through there, I mean, it's just going to be a death trap for things that get into that pipe. I mean, it's such a substantial, length of pipe, and and the grades we're dealing with over distance. I mean, we have to keep the grades fairly shallow. So it's, as Pat said, it's a challenge even to design, a new pipe structure, and the partial daylight that we're talking about. I mean, it just doesn't seem, kind of practical. Certainly from my perspective, biologically, to try to do some natural type setting within a closed structure. But we'll talk a little bit more about that in writing, but just, initial thoughts on that. And it looks like this is probably our best option, to have both a relocated culvert in a better position, and then a partial daylight situation that we can, control the outlet and address DOT's concerns about, the connection into their system. I mean, they don't want a pipe connection into their system. I mean, they've never talked about forcing us to take the existing pipe out. That may be the next step, but at this point, we need to move the pipe anyway. I mean, it goes under the old restaurant building and right through the middle of the fueling station. So we've known all along we need to move the pipe at the very least, and now we've come up to this kind of hybrid partial daylight approach that we have in concept tonight.
Okay. Becky, what do you say?
What do I say? Well, I saw these plans yesterday, so I did provide some comments. So they got a few of my comments already. And one of those was, providing that kind of written alternative analysis that we can have as part of our filing, that we've kind of reviewed all these options and why they don't work on this site. I think it's great to see the changes with the stormwater management. So before, only the rooftop stormwater was getting directed to the basin, and everything else was going to go right into the culverted stream. So they've made a lot of improvements there, which is great to see that not being directed there. As far as the culverted pipe, it's great to see it moved outside of underneath the project footprint and to see the daylighting down here. I think that's an improvement. One other thing, there's an intermittent stream that comes through here. There's a culvert here, and then it opens, and there's another culvert like about here. So that'll open that up too. So that's an improvement there. I think a lot of the design comes from Mass DOT does not want that pipe connected there, so it kind of have to do something here. Couple small things, like I had said in my comments, was maybe thinking about where the pipe actually discharges into the stream here, and maybe kind of thinking about that and ways we can do that so that we're not having impacts there down the road with, water coming right out into the stream across the bank or whatnot. So some minor things that I think that we can all work on. The only thing that I guess that we haven't seen as an alternative is like a reduction in the project size to kind of accommodate maybe making some of these modifications here. I know it's a redevelopment, but maybe with that alternative analysis, why that wouldn't be possible or feasible for this project would be good to see too as part of that. So that's what I got.
Okay. Paul,
I don't,
any comments for him?
no.
David?
Starting at the upper end, Art, I totally agree with you. I like the movement of the pipe relative to the Wetland Protection Act. I think the movement of the septic system is a good idea. I think not being able to open it, you've given an adequate reason why. Would it be more appropriate at the upper end to screen the front end of that pipe, since you would prefer not to have organisms enter that length of pipe in the first place? You could stainless steel it. It would do two things. It would also protect it against small woody debris, which would tend to block the piping over time.
Yeah, I think we can look at that.
There are layers of multiple screen mesh that don't impede the flow, but at the same time do restrict its velocity. And the consideration is, with 2-inch storms becoming the norm instead of not the norm, we have some buildup on the other side of that stream bed that is not clearly visible unless there has been a storm within the last 3 days. So that's one consideration. Second consideration, you have a number of open pits. They're great for collecting, they're great for recharge, I agree with that. But you also have a high vendor area. You've got an area that's going to be flocking with trucks, flocking with cars, going to have a huge amount of retail product vended. And all of those areas become trash receptacles. Is it possible to put some sort of 1 foot, 2 foot barrier in front of each one of them so that the miscellaneous materials that will be blowing around in the parking lot before getting cleaned up by the cleanup crew won't have an opportunity to go into these areas and block the possibility of vegetation from taking hold or vegetation from maintaining itself?
I think just to quickly address that, one of the other comments that we had similar to this at the last meeting was even just in regards to pedestrian foot traffic kind of out in these areas anyways. So we can take a look at fencing, whether it's low or even a 4-foot fence, and protect all this, because it's, we're absolutely going to have a 6-foot high fence along the limits of that deep excavation.
steep one, yeah.
Yeah, so.
That's not for the organisms, that's for the humans.
Right, yeah, so there's gonna be fence and guardrail. If seeing that the new stormwater basin's going in just behind that rear curb line, that existing segment of guardrail is probably gonna be replaced anyway. So, yeah, we'll look at barriers.
That basically misses part of my point. I agree with the guardrail for safety's sake, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about under the guardrail, from the ground up, you need to prevent the materials from being able to arbitrarily just get shuffled in. And you know, as well as I know, that part of what you said may be a little bit leading us in the wrong direction. Guys and women driving trucks are gonna get out of their truck and they do not wanna see pavement. If they see grass, they're gonna walk on it. They're gonna stretch, they're gonna exercise themselves, and they're gonna walk their dogs on it. So we need to have some kind of protection right up front.
So fencing.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be
Yeah,
fence and guardrail.
exactly.
Yeah, yep, I agree.
Art, you can't get away with that. Planting on that steep slope, that is almost all gravel. What are you gonna plant and how is it gonna be maintained?
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely get topsoil back in there. We'll definitely get, erosion control matting, biodegradable matting in there. And we'll do trees and shrubs in it.
Okay.
We're gonna do woody.
Because that
planting.
sucker is steep.
Yeah, we're gonna reforest that area for sure.
Okay,
Yeah, native species, and I'll come up with a nice planting plan. So it'll
Okay.
be two-stage, it'll be kind of a natural
Yep.
stream bed restoration and then reforestation of the slopes. And get them stabilized, with a nice woody root system.
that's what we're looking for.
Yep, yep.
It should not be just Russian olive.
Oh, yeah, right. We got plenty of that on the site.
Becky already mentioned alternative evaluation. Good. Stephen?
Yeah, I have a couple comments. One of my concerns, Becky, can you go to the second
Yep.
tab there? I'm just, if my memory is correct, there's a lot of mature trees in this area. And I know the public, well, someone from the public had commented during the last meeting about their concern about the tree removal, and I have a serious concern about that, because that is a lot of trees. So, I agree with this. I think this is a major improvement, but I am troubled by the sheer amount of trees that are, and you're also talking now about putting a basin here, so all these trees are gone, these trees are gone, you're doing some work over here in the septic system. So, I just want to have some assurance that we can have some, good sized trees put back into the project, and that we can restore some of that. It's gonna take a long time, but.
Right. Yeah, and we've talked about screening plantings up at the new septic too, which is, again, closer to the condo.
On the north side, though.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. So definitely there, and like I say, I mean, we're talking about a substantial, reforestation effort down in this,
Right.
The restored stream channel and slopes.
This location of where you're daylighting the pipe, is it because of this grade here that you can't do it further up? Is that the problem? Yeah.
Yeah, so, and I may not, Becky, if you can zoom in that area, it's like something like 8 or 10 feet difference between the outlet of that
And up here?
pipe with the new one, so I'm dropping 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 feet or so. Arthur's suggestion with the natural, stone kind of terrace, I think will definitely help with that. And to be honest with you, some of the alignment was also an attempt to provide an area that I can get that additional stormwater basin there up at the top of the slope. If I kink it over further to the right on this page, it helps with the alignment, but it takes away from the available space. So Becky had commented about, let's just make sure that the water that's coming out of the perennial stream at the head wall isn't, kind of rushing across to the other opposing embankment and creating, some erosive condition there. So we'll make sure we take a close look at that and get that outlet configuration nailed down.
Okay.
even if we have to maybe put another bend on the pipe
Yep.
once we get past the stormwater basin.
Yep.
And my last comment, I'm not sure what we can do about this, but that abandoned pipe really concerns me from providing a conduit. If there's any kind of a failure in the, fuel system or any kind of major spill in that parking lot, does that then become a route that contaminants can travel and feed right into your,
You're talking about flowable fill in that pipe. right?
Yeah, so it'll be pumped full of essentially.
good, okay.
Cement.
But, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, so that helps. Thank you. That's it for me.
I'm gonna go back to my first question is, where is the 50-foot buffer zone along here?
You want to see up here? So
Yeah.
this is 25,
Yep.
and this is 50 foot,
Yep.
and this
Yep.
is, the tree line's there. This is where the existing septic is. So at our last meeting, we kind of
Yeah.
talked about maybe trying to use that area to get those stormwater improvements.
Yeah, so actually, and I don't mean to cut you off, but, so I'm imagining an additional amount of clearing within the buffers there to be able to situate a basin in that area. The other constraint up in that area is the protective well radius from the new well. I've kind of dashed that in. That well is still,
So
in
this is
progress.
an expansion of, basically, this is the cap here, right?
What's
Going
that?
along here. This is the parking
Yep,
lot. So
Yep.
this is the cap that you currently have. And now you're gonna use further back to bring the pipe along, right?
In that, yeah, existing grass. Yeah,
What?
Grass area.
Grassy area, but I'm still expanding the usage. Can move to the next one, Beck, if you could, or
Zoom out, or?
move it along.
Oh.
So that's the case all the way along. And I'm sure you guys discussed it, but I guess I'm back to it again. Why can't this pipe go across the parking lot?
so we've had, internal discussions as well as some discussion at the site walk about just kind of some of the concerns with having it directly in proximity to the gas use. The original location relocation.
So you expect leakage from the gas?
We don't expect leakage, but it was
No.
just discussion that we had.
So you're using the possibility of leakage to expand the platform for the project?
I mean, I would respectfully disagree with your evaluation of the expansion, just because I know that we have other utilities and other disturbance in some of those areas, but
Right, I understand that.
But also, don't you have to move it out from underneath the building?
yeah,
have
we're
to
moving
move
it out
out,
from under the building.
and then-
Yeah, they can move it out from underneath the building.
Yeah. No, I just think that, so right now, it comes through here, but if they need to daylight here, it would have to come this way, right? If you had to keep it in the footprint, I guess, is what I'm thinking.
If
and then it
if they
would
were
come this
bringing
way.
it in the footprint, they don't need to bring it under the building, from my, or tell me why you do. Go back up, please, back to the corner, the other corner. And this, you're doing this in the wetland, right?
Correct.
Why couldn't you do this here?
Well, actually, just below your pointer, see where right at the corner of the radius of the
Right
site?
here.
That would be our first available point, I guess, to grab onto it, which was our initial attempt. But DPW had asked us if we could go all the way back, just because of their concerns with the condition of the existing pipe. So it is kind of a scenario where, we've replaced, of the 800 feet, we've now replaced 780 of it. Should we just replace it in its entirety so that we know the condition is good moving forward.
Okay. So basically, the concern, I think it's a concern for me that there is expansion to the project. I'd like to see it tighter.
Expansion relative to impervious area, or?
I'm sorry, didn't introduce yourself, and you don't have a mic.
I'm sorry. Conrad Decker, I'm with Petrogas.
Go ahead. Yep.
I'm just curious, you're talking about disturbance on the property, or are you talking about?
Disturbance on the property, yeah.
Because what, basically right now, they're keeping all the impervious area pretty much the way it is today.
I think there's a slight reduction in impervious.
Where is it reduced?
It's reduced mainly out near the DOT where the old driveways are getting closed. There's a portion just kind of to the left of the page now where the parking comes towards the front property line.
It's up by the tanks too.
All right.
In addition to it, you had 3 swales, maybe 4 swales, effectively.
Yeah, 3 basins and then the new open channel, yeah.
Those are my comments. Anybody in the audience like to speak on this? Please, toss her a mic.
My name is Barbara Murphy. I'm in a butter, 30 Bentley Drive. Could you show the drawing of the septic?
Yep.
Because I want to address the old one. Now, we've been out to, my husband and I went out and walked it to get an idea for what was there and what was going to be going in. And when you're looking at the floor.
You want to mark a pointer?
Well, if you could just point for me, not the new one, but the old one, see the 4
Yeah.
sections there? When you're walking that and you look at that, those have, they're obviously big cement tanks and with a cement cover, but the covers are lifted up, they're cracked in places. So my question has to do with what's in them now and when they're going to be filling them. I think I was told from the last meeting that there was just a plan to just put a foot of earth over it or something, and I was concerned that earth might not stay there. It could, and I was concerned about, can somebody fall into it when it breaks? It's already starting to break. So I wanted to discuss what opportunities there might be to, smash the caps off and put them at the bottom and grab them all up. And, I don't know exactly what's in there now, so I'm a little bit blind with my concerns, but it's more a safety concern. I'm just concerned about somebody being able to fall through it if they were hiking through there or walking through there, whatever.
What's the plan now to do with it?
So you guys tell me what's in an old one now? Is there gonna be is it all filled with something? Or
No, so they're just 18-inch high, open bottom, so it's basically just flipped upside down. So the bottom's open.
Oh.
Those aren't necessarily caps because they're contiguous to the rest of the concrete structure. But there would be nothing in them now aside from roots and then the sandy bottom that they sit on.
Are they going to be crushed?
So those wall-like areas, those are only 18 inches deep?
That's correct.
Oh, that's not.
3 sides, so they have the top you see and then the walls,
Okay.
and they're open on the bottom.
The plan wasn't to crush them, it was just to abandon them and fill and restore over the top of them. One of the concerns that we had with crushing or removing them was just the intensive amount of additional disturbance that would go on out there. We could look into that for sure. I
Yeah, I
think
think
if you
that-
crush them, the amount of processing that you would have to do, I think to create an equally safe condition as just covering them over, it might be pretty intensive with the amount of machinery and work that would go on to do that.
But Pat, you are talking about filling them.
We're not talking about filling them, no.
Oh, you're not?
No.
But he does say they're only 18 inches, and that's not as serious. I mean, I'm envisioning like a well.
That's
A
still,
lot of people fall into those 300.
that's still a good fall,
Yeah.
18 inches.
And I didn't think that if you just cover it with a foot of soil, I wasn't sure it would stay there. I didn't know that it couldn't just be washed away. Again, we keep talking about the rainstorms we have now. So that was one of the things that I sort of thought we should address at least to some extent. crush it to some extent,
Okay.
to make sure that it was safe. My only other concern is about barrier plantings, but I think we've addressed that a little bit, because we live in the condo association, and the concern is when you're coming around the drive-through, that there would be headlights. They can be now, they can be, you know, they can be 24 hours a day, so they can be shooting out down into our area. So I did want to also talk about wherever we can put them. We know that right now, I think you're calling it the north side, which is where we are.
Yeah.
There is a line of trees that were planted that are now really high. They're probably the white pines, and they're like this. So it's obvious that somebody planted them, you know, they aren't random plants. So to fill in along those areas, because I really do think there's going to be, even if there's noise, I'm not sure what a drive-through, what kind of noise it has at night, and but there would be lights and the noise.
Is that, can I ask a question? Is that close to the condos where the plantings are? Or-
It appears to be right on the border. It's still to the left of, it's significantly to the left of where you have the
It's
old
beyond this?
septic.
It's beyond
Yeah.
this edge?
Yeah, it's down there, and it's right, it's a ways.
We could look at doing some infill plantings on that side. I mean, that might be more effective.
Yeah, I think one of the other condo members had requested that, so that's an area that we're gonna definitely take a look at.
My last concern is with the trucks. You know, who is gonna be involved in the enforcement of the trucks? Like, I drive by there now, and I can see 8, 10 trucks in there at night. Now, they're parked all over the place, and right now it's essentially abandoned. But it's my understanding are they allowed to have overnight, or because we're 24 hours, they can be there 24 hours, or how does that part work?
You're talking to the wrong committee for that, in all honesty. We're the Conservation Commission. We
Okay,
really
so
don't,
that
yeah.
part doesn't concern you. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
I didn't say that it didn't concern us, it's just, it's not our purview.
Your jurisdiction.
And we don't know who to send you to.
Yeah, right. All right, okay.
Well, if Pilot is any example, they're on all the time. The trucks are on the whole time they're down there.
Well, let's ask the man.
Yeah, go to it.
Yeah, if you mind.
Yep.
Just for clarity, that was handled through planning and site.
Mike, please. It's for the mic is for
Sure.
the home audience.
During the public hearings, there was special permits and planning board activity. There was a special permit that was granted. I'm sure there was conditions. I personally wasn't there at the time, but there will be diesel islands for fueling of trucks. There are going to be 5 parking spots on our property, down in the south end of the property, just 5 spots, not for overnight parking. Most of the other site's going to be developed with the store, with the drive-through, with the gas islands. The diesel area will be as far south as it possibly can, but there will be 5 parking spots, that's it. Right now, if you go down there, they can park wherever they want, and it's all open. Once the property is totally developed, you'll only have the 5 spots. There really isn't gonna be any place else they can park. We're not encouraging overnight parking. It's better to get the trucks in, fueled, get them out. They wanna park, come in, go to the store. There's Subway in this one here, there's a Burger King is being proposed. So, basically, customer comes in, we try to get them in and get them out. So, and the truck parking is as far south on the property as it possibly can be. If you want, check with the town planner, they've got all the decisions on it. You can see what the conditions were.
Okay,
I'm
great,
sure-
thank you. Well, 5 spots for trucks is encouraging.
Right.
We'll see if it stays that way.
May I comment? So Rebecca DeCourcy, I work in the planning department, so I was at the meeting, at the public hearings for the special permits. I did come up in discussion because it's noticed that trucks do park there overnight, of possibly putting up some signs on those 5 spots that say no overnight parking, specifically to try to control that. I think as for enforcement, that might be a police and fire issue.
Okay, sounds it, thank you.
All right.
Could I just say? My name's Mark Murphy. I'm also from 30 Beckwood, which is a condo project that was. And I just wanted to thank the board because the last time that I was here, I talked about the trees and the plantings and the just protection action of trying to make sure that that access road that is now gonna be the travel place to put in the new system and take out the old one, that that would be gated, that people would not be encouraged to have that be a dog walk area or a picnic area. And it seems to me like the board really heard all of our concerns. And the companies are talking about putting in plantings all around the reforestation area. And to hear the board say, I'm concerned about mature trees being leveled and we want them replaced, it's exactly what we're looking for. And so to have been heard at this last meeting and to have all of our concerns so respected is very appreciated. And so we're going to continue as a condo association to make the meetings and talk to Petro and to the engineering firms. I know Attorney Joshua Lee Smith, at the last meeting had some representations that he made to us about the replantings and the more of a buffer that we can have along the property lines, the better we're going to feel about it. We certainly, as an association, feel that it's an improvement to see Roy Rogers become just a better looking place, and to have guardrails replaced, and to have fencing and reforestation. It just, it would be better to see the project really improved. But I'll just close by saying thank you very much again for all of your concerns. You've heard us, and we're just going to continue to appreciate at each meeting that the more plantings we get, the better we'll feel about it. And we know that's a lot of your concern too. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, where's the Telegram and Gazette when we need them?
We'll send them the tape. All right, so you're looking for a continuation? You've pretty much got the guidance for tonight. Any other questions?
Next hearing would be 3 weeks.
June 7th, and then after that is June 21st. So,
June 7th. Yeah, that's
3 weeks.
well, yeah, with the short week with the holiday.
21st. We're definitely looking for a continuation. It's
Okay.
just whether we do the
Okay.
first or second hearing in June.
Can you have a full planting plan ready by,
Well, that's the thing. We want to make sure we have a robust plan and analysis and have it in advance.
you don't
The
have to,
21st.
21st.
21st? Okay.
Yes.
I was gonna say, you didn't have to decide right now, but
Thank you.
we don't have anyone on that agenda, so we can, 6:15, the 21st
great.
would be first.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you very much.
Thank
gentlemen.
you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for your time. Have a
Yep.
good night.
Yep, take care. We are now, all right, we're at 6:30. Notice of intent for 3940 Lake Road, DEP file number 300-1016. J. Radner, represented by Jalbert Engineering. Construction of a single-family house within the buffer zone. Hi Lenny, how you doing?
Good, fine, thank you. What I'm here for, Leonard Jalbert from Jalbert Engineering. I'm here representing Mr. Radner for his property located at 139-140 Lake Road. He submitted tonight for the certificate of compliance for the wall work that he did, I think, before you.
He didn't submit for the certificate of compliance yet, but that's okay. He doesn't have to in order for us. Because this is a whole, he has it.
He has it ready.
Okay.
Okay, but before we proceed, I'd like to submit the certification for certified letters for the abutters and the legal ad in the newspaper.
Thank you very much.
Were you gonna submit that tonight?
Are you gonna speak? You want to speak?
That one?
I'll leave that to,
Okay, okay.
should I submit that now?
Now, wait a minute. Would you like, excuse me, Becky, would you like to have him submit it now for you?
Make it, for record purposes, you want to submit the paperwork?
Yep, that's fine. Yep. I mean, it actually, for this new notice of intent, it doesn't matter that I have this one now because this is a completely separate project. You could have both orders open, but just so you guys know.
We couldn't do anything with having two open for the second one. That's why we're here
Well,
officially.
Well, we could add that one on, amend that to this one.
Right, correct.
You know, but yeah, so it's okay.
Okay, what we're actually proposing here
Please
is,
introduce yourselves and,
okay,
He
is
did.
that again?
did you,
Mr. Radner did not introduce
Leonard
himself, though.
Jalbert from Jalbert Engineering in Sturbridge, representing John Radner for the property located at 139, 140 Lake Road. John Radner is sitting to my left on the project, and a basic intent tonight is just to discuss the raising of the house at 139 and the improvement of putting in a new structure at 139. The property for 139 was presented to the zoning board of appeals, and the affirmative was that the structure could be done as presented. So the only thing we're here for is the Conservation Commission. The property itself basically is under state jurisdiction partially, only within a few hundred and say 70 or 180 square feet, with that which is within the 100-foot buffer, which is immediately adjacent to Lake Road. The property itself, where the house is being built, is all within the 200-foot buffer. What it is the property that is just northerly of this site on the easterly side of Lake Road was the one that you approved recently for the property above for grading and everything on that property. The property next door and Mr. Radner, both of them have got together to discuss what they're going to do, and what they plan to do is to take the compatibility of both sites and blend them together. In the process of doing that, what we're doing here is we're basically removing three trees where the house is itself, which is a 17-inch oak, a 15-inch oak, and another oak tree on the other side in the front of the house. There's a 22-inch oak which is on the abutting property. I think that one also will be removed in the process. The grading that's going to take place around this house basically is delineated on the plan where you've got, if you look on the plan to your, this section right in here, this area here with these solid lines are actually the limit of the work area of the site itself. And there's a line that was put in on the plan right above that, right here is where the work area would be. So the further part of the lot would not be touched. There's a small retaining wall which will be going from here around here to this back side, which basically is staying all within the building parameters, which means it'll all be under 4 foot in height, or structural variance or anything on that would not be required. The drainage itself in this area is going to take place where the drains are on both the north and south side of the house for the roof. We'll be going into these structures here, will be contained within the site itself. The disturbed area, basically, which is in here with the grading around this area here, this banking, would all be loomed and seeded. The area in here, which is basically coming from there over here to the house around here, which is the driveway area itself, would be stone paved, which would actually be a crushed stone pervious base for the road itself. It will not be bituminous. It's actually going to be stone. So this here would be a pervious area here. The house itself would be excavated almost in its entirety within the banking, which is right. What's happened here? Can't find it. Okay. Basically, this here will all be basically in the ground. This area here will be removed on trucks away from the site. They will not be stockpiled on the site. Not because we're trying to be a nice guy, but the fact of the matter is the site is so tight and so constrained that the only way that this can be removed, it'd have to be directly loaded onto a truck and removed from the site, because there's no place on the site to store anything. It's extremely tight. The building, just to show for distance, this side of the building here roughly is 15 feet to the property line, and this side on that is basically 12 feet. So you can see you have very little area to work for with storage of material. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. The house itself will be serviced by town sewer, and the well, which will be a private well, which is located right here on the back of the property. If there's any questions, I'll answer.
Becky?
All right. Right, we've seen this project, we talked about it a little bit in the past, late fall, early winter when it came in. A couple things that I asked be added on the plan are things we talked about, the drip strip, limit of work, showing which trees are gonna be removed, which ones stay, they've marked those. Thinking about, constructions for during condition is, with it being really steep there, maybe kind of phasing, especially considering you said you're gonna work with a butter there on how, that slope ends up. So I'm just making sure we have a clear plan on how that's done. And I was thinking once the house is removed, maybe that the slope in the back with the retaining wall, maybe that's probably like what's first done on the project site, is getting that done and getting it stabilized, not leaving that open while building the house and kind of doing that. So make sure we have a good work plan for those type of things. Make sure we, close erosion controls at night, because they are, needed up in front. So we'd have to, just coordinate that as part of our conditions with whoever does the work there that I would do. If this is at the outer edge of the 100-foot buffer zone, so we're looking at the 200-foot portion of it is within existing footprint of a dilapidated building. One question, I guess, was what's proposed for plantings kind of on the site, especially on the back slope? Can we kind of do native plantings back there and let that go, or were you thinking about doing a lawn and maintaining that back there? So maybe trying to let that reforest or
More, John Radner, more forested plantings, I'm not sure, except mountain laurel and that type of stuff, especially on the tapered part above it especially, and then along the edge of the retaining wall, we should be able to put all kinds of greenery in there, for sure.
All right. Paul?
Yeah, roughly, what's the size of the house? Because it really looks like there's very little room on either side of between the property lines.
The existing house that was there right now had 393 square feet, and the existing house on the one across the street had 783 feet. The proposed house that's going into this here is going to be a two-story structure. It's going to be 885 square feet, and the one across the street is going to stay as is at 783. The total area of coverage within the property itself after construction would be 14.66%, where prior to construction existing condition it's 14.05. So it's increasing by approximately 0.6%, which is below the threshold of the 15%, however, it's very marginal.
I'm surprised you didn't throw my house in on that calculation too, Lenny.
Couldn't do it.
David? Paul, will you through? I'm
I'll
sorry.
let Stephen give his comments, but I want to make just one comment relative to what Lenny just said. Let's make a basic assumption. If you took out the house that is there now, and you did not do any excavating of the hill, and you put the new house in, the coverage would not be 0.9 less, the coverage would be quite a bit over 15. Because with the hill there, that section of the area is not buildable. You have to actually remove part of the hill, don't you? You're going to be excavating in order to be able to get that house right up against the back end of that hill, or the front end, depending upon how you look at it.
You're gonna be, right, you're gonna excavate a portion of the back.
So
lot,
if you,
right.
if you compared apples to apples instead of apples to the engineering prototype, you really would not be close to the right coverage, you would be over the right coverage. But anyway, I digress. The Wetland Protection Act stuff we will bring up after Mr. Chidester gives his erudite conservative measures.
Yeah, so Lenny, if I heard you correctly, you said this oak's coming out too?
That's on Willard's side,
I
yes.
think we approved
we-
that
that
one
was
on
already-
his
that was already
project site.
approved at
I
the-
think
the
so, yeah.
previous
See, so my problem with this project is just all of these mature trees that are gone now. I understand it's outside the 100-foot buffer, but it's just the clearing in that whole area, it just continues. And the problem is that with what you're putting in here, you're not really leaving any room to replace those trees. In fact, I don't see, is there any replanting here at all?
Basically, no, about the only thing we could do in that area, you're only talking a 12-foot, distance and 15 foot from the house to the property line, okay? If you take any type of matured tree.
You're not blaming that on him, are you?
No, of course not.
Because we're looking at what's there right now, and you have lots of, room.
Well, what's there right now is, that, the root system, by the time we work on this house and everything, we're gonna destroy those tree root systems, they're gonna kill the trees
Oh, I
anyway.
understand that, I
Okay.
understand that.
There's one in the front of that cottage now that's physically grown into the cottage. Left-hand corner of that
Right,
cottage,
yeah.
there's
No,
one
I
built
understand
into it.
that. Yeah, I've seen this tree, yeah. Yeah, I don't know, I mean, I'm just, my heartache is over the fact that all of these mature trees are gone now. So, and you can't put anything back.
Well, behind the cottage up on the hill, I can put some more better growth plantings back there, without doubt, up on them.
Yeah, we'd really like to see stuff closer to the lake is the
Well,
thing.
any opportunity on this side? I think we have some trees here and it's pretty tight, but probably not. But that could
What-
be an option.
What about in this area, is that a driveway or something, or is this,
That's it, it's
right in
parking
here?
right there.
that's parking? Yeah. Okay.
Could you put a tree there?
On which side, left side?
Right there,
side?
right there in this corner. Could you put a big mature tree there?
I mean, we're talking about taking 10, mature, really healthy trees out and no replacement, so, but,
Well, I think
With
three, there's
three,
three.
we're taking actually
One,
three
two,
trees out.
three.
well, yeah.
But right, then there's ones
and
over here.
What about this, so this tree isn't coming out?
No, that's staying,
What about this one?
that's staying.
Okay. Well, that's better.
There's only
I just assumed these
there's only
were,
three
these were going
trees.
out too.
There's 3 trees coming out, the ones that are marked with the X.
Just these 3.
There's 1, 2, 3 right there.
I was gonna ask if this one has to, but it's probably pretty close to the foundation, so it's
Right.
gonna get impacted anyways, never mind.
Right.
Yeah, so put me down for the top of the hill. I don't know, I can put, it's scrub pine up there. Top of the hill, we can put, probably put 7, 8 nice red oaks, or whatever terminology you want for it to grow. Maples, red oaks, you're talking about, putting on top of the hill, overcoming the backside of the
What?
retaining wall and all that area, have it overdraft back that way, or into the retaining wall steps. So you got a retaining wall down at the base, and I'm gonna have a couple steps, probably terraced up there, not much. I can put a couple right into the steps there.
Yeah, that's, I appreciate that. I want it to make sense, but That's my concern, is just
I'll
the
replace
trees.
them on the backside on top.
Okay.
And there's a couple crappy pine trees in there, that, you know, they're all right, but nothing special about them, but like taller trees, I'll put hardwood back there.
I don't know what the rest of the commission feels about that.
Red
I-
maple.
You know, I almost feel like we would be better off with smaller trees, because the section, it's so tight,
Yeah.
and the way the hillside goes in, that I would think you'd almost be,
I like arborvitaes myself, I got a lot of them in Agawam, so I can put
Yeah.
on this slope,
Yeah.
some arborvitaes in there.
the other thing that I'm concerned about, jumping to my turn on the wheel, is every time it rains, you're in violation of the Wetland Protection Act, because your Lake Road is going right down into the lake.
But my property, Scott's Honor, does not drain onto the road.
But
Rock-
you own the
rocky
lake,
slope.
right, road right here.
Yeah, and the problem comes in.
So it's going right down Lake
But
Road.
it's on top, no, our property's flat or it doesn't drain down, it's porous. So when we stand there on the road, it starts up on top of the hill, we talked about this when Tommy Clark was
Yeah.
here. The overflow up on top, that Tommy's fixed quite a bit lately. But all that rainwater generates on top of the hill and just comes down the left-hand side, looking up the hill, comes down the left-hand channel and shoots right down. Doesn't come from our property. and
Goes
my
right
side.
across your property,
Goes on the private road,
right across your property.
across the face of our property, correct?
Right, so,
Our
so you're in
property-
violation when it does that and you carry silt.
Well,
Technically, you are. This
goes back 65 years to my father and all the other people.
Historically, yeah, and I'm not, you know, it's a continual problem.
Right.
Is there anything you can do to improve the road between your two sites?
I talked about spraying the road with asphalt, and everybody says the problem, it crumbles, short order.
Yeah,
If we go with a paved series, would the volume of water increase exponentially without some drag? I've been bringing trap rock in and putting trap rock in front of my place. That slowed it down.
on either side, you mean?
On my side of the road.
Yeah.
And that's helped a lot. There's not many places to offload the water back towards the lake going up the hill, unfortunately, but it always stays on the
Oh, I know,
left-hand side.
I know, yeah.
But the key was that Tommy gave you the information, he went up on top and unofficially rebuilt the retention pond last year.
Yeah.
That was the main thing. It was so shallow, it was all filled in, and half an inch of rain is falling right over the top and coming right over and going right down the road. So
Right.
that problem subsided nicely. And then Eric, by default, he's below me, he's got a catch basin where he keeps one of his boats
Yeah.
down, boat trailers there. That gets to be a catch basin, and then we take the dirt, sand, and bills that, and we put it back up on the road. But that's helped out to keep it from going down to the Grand family's property down below. But you're absolutely correct.
Grand summary is that you can go down there and look and you can see the new sand in the lake.
Oh, it's not as bad though as it used to be, without
Well.
a doubt. No question about that. The town brings the stuff in, and no laugh. They bring in the 3 or 4 loads 2 or 3 times a year. You guys bring it in. put it
All
up
right,
on
I'm gonna
top,
jump,
and-
cut the subject off. Do we need a planning plan before we approve this
Uh,
project?
I haven't given my comments yet.
You haven't?
No, I
Do-
gave my
do
time.
we skip over?
I gave my time to Mr.
Oh,
Tedeschi.
my God.
So,
Go ahead, David.
Lenny, I plan to be blasphemous here. I want to change the concept of the drip strip. It's been my idea for 7 or 8 or 9 years that these are great things, and I still think they are, not on this site. It goes right to what Ed Goodwin is saying. Because the drip strip, no matter how you do it, if we have a heavy rain, is going to run water out into that road. So what if you put some kind of a pit, closed pit, with closed gutters around the house that goes directly into that pit as a collecting site, so that the water does not have a chance to come off from that 800 or 900 square feet of roof into the road?
We could go in there very easily with a closed pit. It's Class 1 material.
Yeah.
Okay? So to go in there, with, say, with a 500 gallon
500
leaching
gallon tank
pit
would do it.
would do it, okay? So we could but what would happen, because of the lot, the way it's split, we'd have to put actually 2 tanks in.
That's,
One on the north and one on the south side.
but what we would need to make sure of is that they're not open gutters. They have to be sealed gutters.
We could go with the 500 gallon, yeah, and right in go with.
Because the sealed gutters are gonna prevent you from having to go up on the roof to rake out the leaves every single
I
spring.
know, they're paying.
It is,
Well, it's too tight.
it's
Two-thirds
terrible.
of- yeah.
You pay the extra 50 or $100 ahead of time and you never have to do it again.
So the word closed mean one with the gutter guard principle or something different?
They're closed to begin with, not a gutter guard, because they can rot or they can get blown away or the birds can peck at them. This is actually four-sided.
Okay.
It's a four-sided structure that just carries the water. It's got some kind of hole structure on the backside that allows the rainwater as it comes down to go into this structure and it carries it away.
All right. I don't know if I saw that one in my life yet, but anyway.
We've got closed structures over here at the public house,
Oh, okay.
all the way through.
And it seems to work pretty well, because what you're doing is collecting the bulk of the water from a major storm and guiding it instead of letting it free flow. The drip strip works really, really well, except in a major storm,
Okay, yeah.
where everything runs over everything else and you're all gravel. As Ed was saying, it goes from your house to Lake Road. Regardless of how we try to make it look good,
Yeah.
it goes to Lake Road and then it goes into the lake.
Yeah, plus we're pushing the house, it's only 5 feet from the road now, but we have no drainage out onto the street at all. It's like tipped backwards, so it all lays there, and because it's moss and everything else goes right in the ground there.
That sort of begs an interesting question, though. Lenny said that it was too small a site to really be able to squeeze any plants in. Then how can you possibly squeeze a house in? But I guess that's a moot point.
Well,
You get a planning board approval.
I'd like to, so we've got two things we're looking for here.
trees and steel gutters.
Yeah, one of the things that we can't accept is that plan. Because that plan has no planting plan on it.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do
So
a
Lenny-
planting plan, we wanna see it
Lenny
in
plan
writing,
and
otherwise it
the,
doesn't count. It's he said, she said, and you may do it, you may not do it, but there's no insistence that you do it.
And on-site water.
Yes.
Storage.
Would you like a continuation to bring those two things
As soon as
back?
everyone's done, now request one.
What?
I said, as soon as everyone's done.
I don't
I'll
know, I'm just requesting, I'm not gonna ask them if they're done.
Being Ed wants to get out of here, I request that the meeting be continued.
Rebecca, I want you to put that down in quotes from Mr. Jalbert.
Okay.
So June 7th is our next meeting, is that okay?
June 7th, okay.
Okay.
What time?
I believe we only have one thing, so I'm gonna say 6:30, but I can confirm that tomorrow morning with you.
Okay, do I have what?
6:30.
6:30.
6:30? Okay. Will do.
And we're only looking for two things, right? Planning plan?
There's two things we're gonna come up with. One is the drainage situation for the house, which we mentioned that, and then the other was a planting scheme,
Great.
and that's what we'll do.
And if you could, with the plan, Lenny, could you show a schematic of what that drainage thing is going to look like?
What, the pits and everything? What do you mean? Say that, what?
We know what the pit's gonna look like.
Yeah,
We wanna make sure that it's a closed system.
yeah, it'll be gutter, I'll put down the gutters and downspouts
Okay,
and
great.
everything. Yep, will do.
Thanks, Lenny.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Moving on.
Oh, and then John, we'll take care and we can sign that request for the certificate of compliance.
B version sheet next?
Yes, yep, and they'll sign it at our next meeting, so it should be fine, so you know. Yep, yep.
Okay, we have abbreviated notice of resource area delineation, DEP number, file number. Do you have it, file number?
They have not issued a file number.
Okay.
Yep.
14 and 50 Dowdy Road. P. O'Connell, represented by Burton Engineering, Inc., confirming the extent of wetland resource area.
Hello, Burton.
Andy, did Burton give you the legal ad in the butter notifications by any
No,
chance?
I was
Okay.
just asked to be here tonight.
Yeah, Frank and I didn't talk about that over
Yep.
the phone, but they did do the filing, and part of it is because it's a public hearing, they had to do the legal ad and butter notification. So
So we have no legal ad?
we don't have it.
We do
Right,
not have
he
it.
didn't, Frank didn't give it to me ahead
Well, we
of
couldn't
time.
vote on it anyway, we have no file number.
Right, so we can have a informal discussion.
All right.
Regardless, you still have to introduce yourself, Andy.
I will. I'm Andy Cormier, and I work for Escape Estates Incorporated. We're doing the work for Mr. O'Connell. I was asked to be here tonight. I wasn't even clear as to what tonight was really about, honestly. So I'm here at a disadvantage all by myself. My understanding of tonight's meeting is that this is about the wetland delineations, and that a decision has to be made. They've been delineated in the field, and there's been a report filed. And my understanding is that the board would like to ask for a third-party review, which everyone is in agreement that that is a good idea. And I have no real, I wasn't sure if there were any other questions. There was one question that, I don't know if it has anything to do with the wetland delineations at all, about a culvert that was damaged on that property. I can answer that question. If there's a question out there, there was a culvert that, a piece of metal culvert, and that culvert was damaged or pulled up by the farmer himself when he was removing his cow fencing. He was basically scrapping the property of all scrap metals, and somehow it got tangled up in the tractor and got yanked out. So that piece of steel pipe was not damaged by any of my personnel. I wasn't even sure how it happened. I had to ask questions, what happened to this culvert? If anyone was asking that question, that's what happened with that. We did set that piece of pipe aside. The drainage system there seems to be working just fine. There may be improvements that town might want to ask us to do when the time comes.
Focus
but-
on the process for the third-party review.
Okay.
Just so we get to that point.
Yeah.
Becky, can you give him a sheet telling him exactly what we're looking for? We'd like you to give us 3 people that you'd like,
Yep,
one of
so-
which, and we'll pick one to use.
Okay.
Yeah, so the way it works, we're allowed to request for certain consultants on different types of projects or different types of filing for certain things. And
Sure.
delineations for large projects are one of those. So in our local wetlands bylaw regulations, we have provisions for hiring outside consultants. And right now, how it reads is that the applicant is responsible for doing that. So they're responsible for providing the names of 3 qualified candidates for doing that type of work for us. And then the commission gets to choose a consultant out of that, or keep going if they're, to find the right person to do that.
Sure.
So the applicant is also required to pay for the costs of the consultant.
Okay.
And in this situation with, it's a very large project site, so we have some different resource areas that were delineated on both sides of the road. But as you know, what we talked about, we kind of have some concerns with the existing disturbed areas, the agriculture areas. So the south area was pasture, north side was the hayfield. So looking at that, and looking at with the culvert, that potential hydraulic connection it had to the areas to the north. Mm-hmm. So for this site, because it's a disturbed agricultural area, it's not going to look like our typical wetland. So it's really important that a certified certified soil scientist would be consulted on this. Person should have a wetlands background. So it'd be important to kind of really look at a good look at the soils on both the north and the south side of the road, vegetation. Another important thing too, I know that both sides were cut last year, is that the areas of concern aren't mowed this year. Not saying that the whole site can't be done, but especially this area, because it's really important to look at the vegetation, and then the area to the north here. That's going to really impact the person's ability to see what's really going on there, and if it's cut, it's going to impact those results, which could impact the commission's ability to make a determination on what's going on there. So if that's not cut, it can help really kind of clarify what's going on there. Yep. So I can clarify that and kind of put that in an email to Burton as well, since they did submit the filing on behalf of the owner.
Did it go to you or to Burton?
It must have went to Burton.
Okay.
No, I will send it to them.
Okay.
Yeah. But Burton did do the filing, so they have the legal ad. We did give it to them, and they must have all the abutter stuff, and must just not thought about that today.
Yep.
So
All right. How soon will you have that to them?
within a couple work days.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll send that out, and then what we can do is continue this to our next meeting, which will be June 7th.
Okay.
Maybe at that time, the project team can kind of work on finding a couple names of outside consultants that meet that criteria and bring those forward, and I can work with them.
Sure.
We can schedule them, but if it hasn't got it completed, push it out.
Well, we still have to have it continued
Okay,
and open the
all right, so
public
you-
hearing and.
We don't have a choice.
Right,
right,
yep,
yeah.
and officially request it, so.
Good point.
So that would be June 7th, and I'll send Bert an email and I'll copy you on it with
Okay.
that information.
Good.
6:45 and,
Part of why we need to have a wetland scientist as part of this, Andy, is because, for example, on the ANRAD, one of the plants that struck me as being present, that is not normally present, is sheep laurel instead of mountain laurel. Sheep laurel, I have to look it up. I couldn't find it today, but I will. Sheep laurel, if I remember correctly, is facultative wet. And if you have a fac wet on the property, that's a wetland. Even if it doesn't look like a wetland now, it was in the past, and therefore the underlying soils probably are still a wetland. So it shows the hydrologic connection that Becky was talking about. This is the kind of evolving thing that we have to understand. It isn't like the property's been screwed up for 100 years. It's been trampled by elephants.
Cows, yeah.
and planted
Yeah.
and manure, different amendments, especially on that north side where it's maintained as the hay field there, so.
All right.
We're not really continuing this because the hearing
Correct.
didn't open.
That's right.
We're just
Right, we're just,
postponing it.
yes,
Never opened
yes,
it.
I just wanted to
yep.
clarify that.
Thank
because we
you,
used
we're
the
post,
heading.
yes.
I have one question then. Would it have opened tonight had the legal ad and everything been here? Is that?
Correct,
I'm
yep,
understanding that
yep, we just
correctly?
need to have that presented to know,
Okay.
Yeah.
with both those, so yeah.
It
Okay.
ain't legal without the number.
Right. I get it. Okay.
All right, thanks for coming in.
All right. Very good, guys. Thank you.
Have a good night, Andy.
I'll make sure I'm better studied next time. Good night.
Take care. All right, now we are at DEP number 300-1007, George Vinton Road.
Yep, I mentioned it
Postpone.
earlier, but yep, this one, they asked for a continuation to our next meeting of June 7th, because they're still working on the revised plans for the culverts. There's a lot to that with the hydrology and everything, so it's a little bit more involved for the plan, so they're not ready yet.
So
But-
it says here they're gonna replace 2 culverts.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep, so originally it was 3. They don't need one of the crossings. They're gonna restore that to natural conditions without impacting the upland and pond, not, the upstream ponded areas. And then they still need to replace 2 of them. The proposal that was discussed last time is switching them, yeah.
To prevent at least one of our members from going on a rant when they come in next time, you might want to drop them a note indicating that we really expect to have the plans.
Already done,
5 days ahead of time?
already done.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah, and another solution to not having a rant would be not put that terminology of mosquito. Ditch. Yeah, ditch.
But I think he's right, though. Mass DOT does call them that, so I think that's.
DOT needs a lesson.
Yes, yes.
In the interest of Mr. Goodwin's wanting to continue moving the project along,
Yep.
I would like to make a motion to continue the use of Wetland Protection Act funds for the Conservation Department administrative position.
So just to explain, this has been done for a couple years, so
Yeah.
5 hours for the
But
assistant.
we need a
comes-
second before we can discuss it.
Oh, sorry.
Second.
Okay, now we can discuss it.
5 hours out of the 25 hours that pay comes out of our
Right.
Wetlands Protection Fund.
Discussion? All in favor? Mr. Barnacle, you are on your toes tonight.
Everything is 4-0. This is boring.
Yeah.
Oh, that's all right, we'll
Why don't
screw
you
you up
just
yet.
object
Certificate
our
of compliance for
principles or
Hare
I
Road.
think I will.
Okay.
That's just continuing from last time, so I just have it on here. I don't think I need to have it on here,
Okay.
but we have it on here.
Continue.
Yep,
Then-
I actually, we do have a request for certificate of compliance that came in after I posted this. Although I've already done a site visit, this is 110 Westwood. We had a tree removal request a couple weeks ago when his filing came in and realized he still had open orders of conditions for his project. So when I went out there, I had called him in advance and he didn't realize that it wasn't done. So they were working on that. That's been submitted. When I went out there, I knew it was coming in, so I had checked the site.
Well, let me just check down the line. David, is it all right if we look at this? Okay. just
Yeah,
check.
it's just, yeah. Oh.
Want to
So,
sign it?
yes, just.
Well, it's a done deal anyway.
Right.
I can't make a motion to approve the minutes. I missed it. I went looking for them again today and I said, whoops, maybe they are here, and I'll read it when I get home. Thanks, Stephen.
Next, Beck?
All right, we have orders of conditions for 130 Brookfield Road. This was the project we approved last time, the single-family house.
Yep.
So I have these here, and the contractor that's been hired to do the work has kind of looked at the plans, gone out there, and he's asked for a minor change. So in the front here, it's really tight to the house. They're asking to reduce back here, like this area all around the well. They're gonna tighten all of this up, this limit of work, and they're just asking for a little bit more work here because it is so tight. One, that, you know, first he was saying it's related to doing the work when doing the house, but it would give them just a little bit more of a front yard, and they'd be willing to tighten up their limit of work back here to have that. So it helps with the construction of the house when they're excavating, et cetera. But also, because I was like, oh, is your intent to kind of restore it? And he's like, well, they would actually kind of like to have a little bit more of a front lawn there.
We want a front lawn.
But they can reduce back here.
What's the distance to the well?
This is the 100-foot right here, right?
Yes, yep, we're pretty far out here, so. And then this is within the 100-foot, so if we tighten up here, I think they're just asking for about 20 more feet here, and then they'll kind of make it up over here, so.
20 feet and it's still outside the 100-foot, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
David?
Fine.
Paul?
No, it's fine.
Okay, all right. I mean, I wasn't gonna have them, do an official revision on the plan. I
Ought to
can-
put
I
it
can-
somewhere.
I can, yeah, I can ask them
Yeah, we need it.
to
I
do
thi-
that in
yeah,
our
I think they need-
file. I was
they need-
thinking,
I think they need to give you an official, they're putting lawn on. The next thing you know, it's gonna be
okay,
longer.
I was gonna say, we can, make sure that it's on our as-built afterwards if we wanted, or I can have them do it as a quick revision and send it in.
I'd have them do a quick revision.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Okay,
That shouldn't be a very significant change
Okay,
from a
right,
revision
yep.
standpoint. so,
Okay.
Yeah.
all right, I will have them do that, but here's
We can sign it.
orders to sign.
We're getting there, Rebecca.
Yeah, yeah.
She's looking at her watch.
I was gonna say, this will be,
God damn it, these guys.
this will be Rebecca's last meeting with us. Yeah, yeah.
I'll probably come back and visit.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
This page, yeah, this page goes with this one, okay.
I probably stapled it wrong.
So the only thing we have left on the agenda is the approval of the minutes that I sent out for you guys that Rebecca drafted. But while we're signing,
This is May 3rd.
yep,
That was the one I missed, right?
no, that was our last meeting, you were here for that.
Oh, the last meeting?
That
Yeah,
was the last
yeah,
meeting.
Yeah, last meeting, okay. Motion to approve the minutes? May 3rd.
Yeah, I make a motion to approve the minutes, May 3rd.
Second.
Discussion?
I can vote on them now, I just read them.
Okay.
There you go.
All in favor?
No, I have one suggestion. You have to ask for comments.
I did, and you said you can vote at them.
Comment.
gonna let
9
you vote.
Holland, 9 Holland Road, the headline, it says informal discussion. For the sake of clarity, in case anybody in the public reads them, I would like to add walk-in agenda
Okay,
after
so
that,
here.
just so the people understand that that's where that subject fit on the agenda.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I agree.
Like parentheses?
It would work, yeah.
Yeah. Or a comma.
Okay.
Either one, it really doesn't matter, but I think that it's important for
Yeah.
people to be able to focus on the agenda item.
Great.
So, yeah.
All in favor? Unanimous? Anything else, Becky?
Look at that, Rebecca, you get us to do all of the votes 4-0.
No, the only thing I was gonna add was that, not this one, is that with our letter permits, we really don't have anything, especially with like the tree removals. We have no idea of knowing people, like we see this tree from 2013 that never got planted. We have no idea of knowing that. So I think we really should think about, and I can work on that and kind of present some language that people need to acknowledge that they've received our letter and they agree or whatnot, or they have so many days to appeal a decision or something of that nature. Maybe adding some type of language.
And we don't have an inspection procedure for going out and checking that things
Not
were
for
done.
those small things, no, there never really has been. That's something that we could do a better job in the office of following up on, like keeping a tally of the open projects and where they stand and, what's been done, et cetera, so. Something I
one
plan
of
on
the
working
things-
on.
And would that be better than having you work on big stuff?
Well, not that I would be necessarily
No,
working on
I'm just saying,
that, but-
it's
What do you
time
mean?
taking. If you're gonna go check to see if,
Oh, yeah, I think
if
you'd have to
people-
prioritize what's,
What- that's what-
more important,
yeah.
open orders, conditions for large projects, things like that, absolutely. But I think that we should have something
yeah.
in place for that, but.
I have no problem with changing the signature portion of it so that they commit.
Mhm.
Something committing in writing, that might help. And that wouldn't take any,
Well, like with the orders of conditions, I did that certificate of understanding. So the property owner needs to sign that they acknowledge that there's certain conditions at different times, et cetera, that they're responsible for things. So it could be something similar, but.
Well, one of the
not as
things that we
burdensome.
could do is we could add a sentence or paragraph to the bottom of the letter permit that would become boilerplate, which would say something like, at the conclusion of your replanting or at the conclusion of your successfully achieving the project, please notify the Conservation Commission.
right.
Yeah, and I think that
That way
some of
the
the larger
responsibility would
ones.
be on them as opposed to it being on you and your staff.
Yeah,
Your staff being you, which brings up point number 2,
Mm-hmm.
when do you have a new helper coming in?
Tuesday,
Tuesday?
yes, yep,
Okay.
yeah.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to adjourn?
Oh, no, one other point I'd like to, on new business, we now have our response from legal. Becky sent you guys a note and said, hey, why don't a couple of you sit down with me, just a couple, and go over this so that we can make it quick at a meeting. I volunteer myself to be one of those people. Anybody else wanna? David? So David and I will get a time with you.
Okay.
We'll go over them so that we can have
I
an.
think I just got volunteered.
Yeah, that's what this does, Dave. Steve froze, so I knew he was out.
That was really good. You stopped dead in your tracks, Stephen.
Sorry, what is this in reference to, Liga? Did I get that correct?
Oh, legal, we asked legal
Legal, okay.
questions, yeah,
And
certain
so now we're
questions
gonna
about our.
review them.
Got it.
Yeah.
Now,
Yep.
I make a motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
All in favor? Thank you. Excellent job, Rebecca and Becky.
I was gonna say, what about me?